Hey, hi, sorry to interrupt. I know the podcast's about to start. This is James. I just wanted to put in a little editor's note apologizing for my audio quality in the upcoming episode. I forgot to switch my mic to the proper input before we started recording. Sorry again, virtual recording's hard, so my audio feed's going to sound pretty scuffed this episode, but I hope you can bear with me and get through it because I think this is a really good episode. So, yeah, just wanted to take a quick little editor's note to apologize about that. Enjoy the episode. Thank you. This week on the Socratic Cinema podcast.
Let's take Coco, change the culture, and throw a sprinkling of up in there.
If you were planning to make a rocket to the moon and you didn't know that F was equal to force, how are you doing any of your physics calculations?
Over the moon, a lot of depression.
Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Socratic Cinema podcast. My name is James Felicio.
I'm Kasey Clark.
And I'm Charlie Heatherly.
And before we start today, I just want to take another chance to say thank you. We've been saying a lot of thanks recently because you guys have been absolutely off the chain with the support we've been receiving on the channel and on the podcast. It's incredible. We've just had this crazy surge of growth and new faces popping up over the past couple of days, and we're just beyond grateful for everything that's been happening. One of our videos hit over 1 million views because of you guys, which is just something that is kind of mind-boggling. It hasn't quite set in, I think, that something that we put out has, been viewed by 1 million people. It's very humbling, and so we just wanted to take a minute to thank you again from the bottom of our hearts. If you guys have anything to add on to that, speak your truth.
Speak my truth. Well, yeah, I mean, you guys have been absolutely incredible. Again, just to reiterate what James said, you guys are the best. We never thought that we would ever get 1 million views on a video, let alone however many subscribers we have right now. At the time of recording, I think we're at like 7.9 or something. That's entirely crazy to us. So we're so incredibly grateful to be supported by you guys.
We just really appreciate anything, all the views, all the comments, all the interactions. It really makes doing this fun because we want to do stuff for you, and we just really appreciate all the amazing interaction and views that we've been getting back.
Yeah, I think Kasey made a good point about the comments. That's absolutely my favorite part, is reading all the input you guys have and sort of getting to interact with you and have little conversations in the comments. It's a lot of fun. So if you want to ask us a question in the comments of any video, do so. Absolutely. I check our YouTube studio really probably too often. So I'll be we're ready to answer if you guys ever want to chat with us in the comments. So just know that we hear you guys. And with that out of the way, we also have one other announcement, and that's that we have officially a Patreon page set up. We figured that, we want to keep making this show better, and we want to keep doing this and make it as good as we can for you guys. But to do that, we need your support. So if you're at all in a position where you can support the show, if you feel like you've gained anything out of it, or you enjoy us and want to see us kind of become even better, right? Just as good as we can be, please consider supporting us on our Patreon. I think you can find it at patreon.com/Socratic Cinema. Tiers start as low as $1. And I think our most expensive tier is $15 right now. And you'll get access to all sorts of cool benefits, like getting episodes early, behind-the-scenes content, being able to even vote on what movies we cover next, asking us questions. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff happening over on our Patreon. So, of course, the show's always going to be free. We're never going to put it behind paywalls or anything. But this is just sort of, if you are in a position where you can and you feel like if you feel that calling to support us in any way, no matter how big or small, check out our Patreon. But with that out of the way, let's get into the podcast here. I think that's all of our general announcements for the day. But today we are talking about Over the Moon, the new Netflix animated movie directed by Glenn Keane, starring Kathy Ong, I'm not sure, Robert G. Chu, and Philippa Sue. So yeah, let's get into it, fellas and ladies. What do we think of Over the Moon?
I'll let Kasey go first.
Okay, so initial thoughts. Let's see. It's obviously a movie made for children. But I always find it interesting where it's like this is a kids movie, but the main theme is dealing with grief. which is honestly good that they're adding like heavier themes to kids movies because kids do go through grief, they go through loss, they go through all that stuff. And I'd put it about mid-tier. Uh in the kids movies that I've seen, it wasn't as annoying as I thought it was going to be. It was very well done. The animation was amazing. The transitions, 10 out of 10. I loved the transitions in this movie. Very creative, I think. Um, out of 10, maybe a 7. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
that's
give it a 7 out of 10.
all right for sure. I think we're gonna leave Charlie for last today because I know
Whoa,
he's got some
okay.
feelings. I know you've got some feelings,
I have tons of emotions.
and I
Yes,
want to just let that kind of stew for a little bit.
I hate you.
But yeah, I'm with Kasey. I enjoyed Over the Moon. I think it was very sweet. It was cute. It wasn't anything crazy original. A lot of familiar plot beats. It sort of reminded me of kind of Coco, but with a different cultural aesthetic laid over it, if that makes sense. It felt a lot like a lot of the modern Pixar movies did, but just kind of not as creative, maybe a little bit more run of the mill. I thought the songs were really fun. Some of them, there were a couple that I was like, eh. But I thought overall, I really liked the songs. I think the movie was very stylish. I thought it was very aesthetically pleasing to watch. I really liked the aesthetic of the whole movie, and the animation was very, very fluid. Yeah, so overall, I enjoyed Over the Moon. I don't think it would be in like my top 5 animated films of all time or anything. Into the Spider Verse is always going to be number 1, baby. But yeah, I enjoyed Over the Moon. I think out of 10, I probably would give it something like a 6.5 or a 7. It gets a passing grade, absolutely. I don't think that's a question, but I think there's some good stuff to dig into with Over the Moon. But Charlie, what did you think about Over the Moon?
This movie is a 5 on a good day. Look, in a word, Over the Moon is disappointing. All right.
Ooh.
I will agree. I think that this movie technically is a marvel. I mean, just looking at all of the reflections that they did on this girl's puffer jacket, like wherever she went, it's phenomenal the way that they did all their lighting. All of the animation is super clean cut. I think all of the 3D artists also did a phenomenal job. And I think there's a lot of creative visual animated sequences. My problem with it is it takes all of this potential that you carry with a story like Chang'e and like this actually, do we know the nationality of this girl? Is she Chinese?
Yeah,
I
I would
believe
assume
so.
so.
Okay, we're gonna assume that she's Chinese.
It takes place in. It
for
does
the rest
take
of this.
place in China, I believe, doesn't it?
Well, that was my question. They never explicitly said, but
Oh,
sure. So it takes the story of this Chinese girl sort of reconciling with her own mythology, her own heritage, going to the moon to meet one of her legendary idols, Chang'e, and then at the moon we get an uninspired Lunaria kingdom of just these weird geometric light up houses. I'm looking at them right now. It's like they're these weird opaque neon bubbles. The entire design of Lunaria feels very uninspired to me, and I think a lot of the inhabitants of it do as well. Like there's these weird bunny bikers that are there for some reason,
the
and like
bikers were
Biker
birds.
chicks.
They were birds.
oh, there were birds. Oh, you see, like they were so nebulous that I forgot entirely what they were.
It looked like Angry Birds characters.
They did. They
that
did.
might have
Like
been maybe that was an Easter egg, but they totally looked like Angry Birds.
100%, but it just feels like half of this movie had very uninspired design, or at least they didn't carefully consider it. And they took a lot of the just raw potential with the technical work that they did and sort of just wasted it on the more creative side. I think the pacing of this movie is also really, really strange. And for instance, like something like the leapfrog scene with the giant moon frogs, that just sort of gets resolved in like less than a minute. Like, oh no, there's giant frogs jumping. Oh wait, I remember how to play the very popular game of Leapfrog. And then the girl jumps on top of the frogs, and then suddenly that whole sequence is resolved. Or when they did the ping pong fight scene, but then nothing ends up happening. Like it's just completely worthless.
That bothered me too, but I mean, like, because the scene in itself was very fun and
Yeah.
like, but then it's like, oh, that didn't matter. Nothing has changed from the start of the scene to the end. You know?
Exactly. This is my point. They have beautiful animation and scenes, and then they just sort of fumble the ball with how they're supposed to be executing the story of it. So really, I think that Over the Moon could have been something great, but they just didn't have the vision to really finish it. And also, I've heard a lot of complaints about how this is like a Disney movie and how the mother dies very quickly. And I get that. I understand that. I was really peeved off as well. But I think that this takes an interesting take on the whole mother dying thing with this new stepmom that's coming in and that whole story. But I don't know. I just there were like 2 scenes where I felt emotions, but for the rest of it, I was just like, this is a neon colored mess that I have no idea where it's going. So yeah, I did not enjoy it.
That's fair. It feels definitely contrived. Like everything I've seen here, I've seen before. Especially, I think you're super right about the aesthetic of the Moon Kingdom. It's definitely not like original. Like I said, it feels a lot like Coco. Like let's have this mythical land just be vibrant colors and mythical creatures and I mean obviously Coco's a lot more, detailed and pleasing, but this just feels sort of like they went, hey, Coco's a pretty good movie. That let's take Coco, change the culture, and throw a sprinkling of Up in there, and we have our movie.
Oh man.
Well, and then here's the other problem with that, because I entirely agree with you. But I think what Coco does really, really well in The Land of the Dead is it creates its sort of own. I don't even know how to describe it, like canon around what happens in there. Like they have all these new characters that you're introduced to that are each individual and unique. There's you see all these cultural practices that they're going through, like all these music competitions, how the different class structures are laid out. Like there's a lot of hidden world building in Coco. But then you get to Over the Moon. I guess Chang'e really likes singing. That's cool. Everyone loves her. And then everyone lives in Pop Rocks. Like that's
what it's like? It's like it reminds me of kind of like Wreck-It Ralph 2, like the internet world thing. It's just kind of like bright colors and it kind of has this pop motif going. And I mean, it's a nice contrast from kind of the more tradition family centric like China Earth that we have. And I also do like from a visual standpoint, seeing the bright colors clash with the gray moon like is nice when you first see Lunaria. Like that was pretty cool to me.
Mm-hmm.
But then after like once the shock kind of wears off after like 3 minutes, you sort of feel that you're just in any other brightly colored kids movie at that point. And I think it like Kasey said, it is a children's movie, but that's no excuse. You can't escape our cold hard analysis on the Socratic Cinema show. Nothing is safe.
I feel like there are certain ways that they could have made it more interesting. I definitely agree with Charlie that it is somewhat of a accumulation of a whole bunch of other watered down kind of stories. Like I remember watching of the what was it? The opening where we kind of meet and get introduced to Gobi, and in my head I was like, this is just Olaf.
True.
Like I was
so
like
true.
And that was my like initial like main connection of like, okay, this is a bit we're going into some other places here. And even the color scheme kind of reminded me of Inside Out a little bit.
Oh, so true. I feel like this, and from what I've seen in the Soul trailers, this feels like identical to how Soul looks. Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, honestly, considering it can come down to something as simple as look at Inside Out, look how good it turned out. We can do that with our own like story, whether it's good or not, and then put it out. Before I get into the stuff that I necessarily had a problem with, I just want to like say congratulations to this movie because what they did was have a majority Asian cast, and that's something that you should acknowledge and congratulate because that's not happening as much as it should. So I just wanted to call that out for just a hot minute.
Yeah, especially not in like especially not in animated films. I mean, I feel like the last really like Asian centric children's film we had was Mulan. I don't really know. Has there been
Kubo? There are white people in Kubo. Never mind.
Well, but I mean, you know what? Like, it's still
yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe I guess you could. I don't
Oh,
know.
the dumpling short, the
Oh,
bow.
Bao.
Bao.
I love
You-
Bao.
I mean, didn't
We love Bao. But no
Big
one really
Hero's-
talked.
that's
Oh, yeah,
true.
Big Hero 6.
Big Hero 6, so that's kind of like a melting pot, but there's definitely a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like a. I remember the city's like San Francisco or something. It's like
Oh,
Tokyo.
yeah,
And
that was awesome.
I
Shout
love
out
that
Big
movie.
Hero 6.
No, seriously, I love Big Hero 6. That is one of my favorite animated movies. That was like a core memory, you know, and Inside Out, you have the core memories. Big Hero 6,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, but I think I also like would kind of rather sing the praises of this movie before we tear it apart, just so we don't get too Debbie Downer. I want to say the music in this movie I was very, very impressed with the songs, and there was a lot of musical moments. There was like 3 times in this movie that for whatever reason I was just like, whew, I don't cry in movies, but I get these hits where I'm just like, gotta take a second, gotta fan my eyes a little bit.
I'd be crying. I don't care.
Yeah.
At this point.
I don't know, man. I just can't. Like I get like 3/4, but I can never get all the way there. But like that first song, I was a really, really big fan of that. The magic in these mooncakes song. You know,
Oh, yes.
I really liked
I
that.
agree.
That was very fun, and I thought they did a good job at showing the progression of the mom's illness. Like her face kind of gets really thin, and just little details that they don't explicitly state. Like the dad's not like, "Dear, your face is looking awful." Like it just kind of leaves it up to, you know, it's subtle storytelling like that. And then also on that like final verse after the mom's passed, and Fei-Fei's like, there are memories in these mooncakes.
Oof,
I was
that
that
hit.
one
That hit.
that one almost got me, man. I'm not gonna, because I wasn't expecting it, and it's like I have a love-hate relationship with the songs in this movie, because I feel like a lot of them, like the mooncakes one and also Fly Away, are like so good. Like the Fly Away reprise right before she goes to the moon was so good. Like actually so good. I can't stress it enough. But then there's other parts, like I didn't really like Chang'e's songs very much. Maybe that's just because I don't like the whole. I'm not a huge fan of like poppy. What genre did Chang'e's songs? You know, like ultra
Yeah,
pop.
it was definitely pop. It gave me kind of Zootopia. Like the
Yeah.
Shakira character, it gave
Yeah.
me that.
I feel like songs you do on like Beat Saber, you know, Charlie. Like
Which is why I loved it so much. Ultra Luminary, an absolute bop.
like Ultra Luminary and the ping pong game song. I think that one's called Hey Boy. Those ones I was just kind of like, as much as I love Philippa Sue and she's great, it was just like, I don't like these ones as much. I think it's just because they're not traditional like show tunes, and I like, you know, musicals. So
A purist.
that might be it. Yeah,
God.
but also like
One of those weird ones.
one of
Ugh.
the weirdos. But also like sometimes the lyrics and the musical like devices hit really hard, like the memories in the mooncakes or the Fly Away reprise when she's flying to the moon. Sometimes they were really great, but then other times the lyrics were just so uninspired and
Okay.
surface level. There's literally at the end of the movie, when Chang'e is like singing to Fei-Fei about how she needs to move on, like there is no subtlety at all. There's literally a line that's like, it's hard to move on when a loved one dies. I wrote it down because I was like, seriously? Like there was no way you could have dressed that up. Like that's the core theme, and you're just gonna like just say it. It just kind of disappointed me.
So hold on, because what you said about the lyrics is entirely true. I don't think that they understand anything about science when they wrote this movie, despite their main character being like a girl in STEM.
She's a woman in STEM is her whole character trait in the first 30 minutes.
Well, literally.
Leave her
So this is the
alone.
problem. There are tons of women in STEM that I talk to who are like, we're so tired of this women in STEM thing. Can we just, we're just women. We're just women doing computer stuff, right? And I feel like that they did a very bad job of portraying like what competent women in STEM look like with this character. I'm looking through flying or the rocket to the moon. There is a line about the equation for what she's doing, where it's like force and gravity. I can't find the specific line, but let me paraphrase. Basically, she's like, F, That stands for force, and G is always gravity. If you were planning to make a rocket to the moon and you didn't know that F was equal to force, how are you doing any of your physics calculations? She showed a problem that I did in pre-AP physics. This is not difficult stuff. All you have to do is look at what the variable is equal to, and she was like, oh my god, it makes sense now. I can now build a rocket ship because I know that force is equal to F? What are you talking about? She's 12. She can read. She's literate. Literally, she has 2 brain cells. Anybody could be like, oh, maybe F does equal to force. That was my problem the entire time. What did she think it was before?
Fluorine?
Fanta? She was just drinking soda the entire time? Like,
please.
How do you write? It's just, they keep bungling up their central things. This girl was supposed to be competent in science, and then literally she doesn't even know what force stands for or what F and force stands for.
I agree.
That's
that scene very much as I enjoy stuff like where it all comes together, it was very much just like technical jargon. You know the whole like the
incorrect technical jargon.
You know the techno speak trope where it's just like have the flux capacitor is but it felt kind of like that. Like let's just have her say science terms, but it makes sense to her, I guess. But yeah, it's sort of I didn't quite get what her breakthrough was. Like she saw the rocket ship mock-up go on its side, and then suddenly that led her to like uncovering new equations. And look, I think a lot of the plot points in this movie are big stretches. Like just straight up, I didn't get the whole her logic from going from Baba doesn't believe in Chang'e anymore. If I can get him to believe in Chang'e, he's not going to get remarried. I just felt like a stretch to me, you know? And I guess they did explain it, where, you know, it's like, oh, Chang'e can wait for her true love forever. Why can't Dad? And that I thought was really good when they phrased it that way. But they didn't for a really long time. It just sort of felt like you had to somehow put the pieces together on your own why Dad believing in Santa Claus at all relates to him, you know, getting remarried, right? It's like, it sort of felt like those Christmas movies, you know, where it's like, if I can just get my parents to believe, the family will be saved, you know? I don't know. That bothered me, but maybe I'm just slow, but that was not like...
For me, I don't know if it's maybe like because I've dealt with a whole bunch of the traumatized child, but in those types of movies we have a lot of stability projection where they never really come out and say it, but the whole Chang'e story was the main thing that was connecting her to her mom, which is why she fixated on it to the point where she thought she could fix her father's whatever, moving on, getting remarried. Like, of course, from a kid's perspective, I guess that makes sense, but from our perspective, it's like that doesn't connect at all. But as we see kind of that wall of I need to do this, I need to make my father believe. I believe after it comes during the whole darkness scene, I think, where the wall kind of delusion that this is going to work, seeing that Chang'e and Hoi didn't last forever. I feel like that was also another kind of breaking to be like, oh, I can't fix this, I'm going to have to move on, which of course they said flat out in the song. But I don't know. I just think it's more it's more of the common stability projection.
Yeah. And by the end of the movie it makes sense, but just going into the rising action, it kind of feels like we're not quite sure why we're doing this, you know? And it just feels like I wish they would have leaned into the not wanting Dad to get remarried thing harder, because it sort of in the first act it felt unclear whether they were trying to pin her motivation on believing in Chang'e or not wanting Dad to get remarried. Like the scene where she gets frustrated over dinner was not because her dad was getting remarried. It was because none of her relatives believed in Chang'e. I was like, I just feel like it would have been more effective if her, kind of emotional catalyst was, having to do with dad getting remarried rather than Chang'e. And again, like, by the end of the movie, you sort of figure out that those things are linked. But in the beginning, I feel like you really need to make sure that your character's motivations are strong and relevant to the theme, and not just, believe in Chang'e. It just feels like a lot of missed opportunities.
Yeah, and then the MacGuffin in this movie, which is like the picture of Chang'e, or actually, I suppose that's the reward, and the MacGuffin is the.
Wait, what's a MacGuffin?
So what a MacGuffin is it's essentially a plot device. Like it's an object that drives the plot. So I misstated what the MacGuffin is. The MacGuffin in this movie is the gift,
Right.
and then the picture is the reward.
So
But
would the dagger thing in the ninth in Rise of Skywalker, is that a MacGuffin?
Yep.
Okay, I just want to make sure I have it right. Or I'm trying to think of another MacGuffin. I can't think of another. The Ark in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yep.
The
Anything.
music box and Anastasia.
Oh my gosh! Don't even bring it up.
Any object that drives the plot forward. It's a very broad definition. And then some people say that there's a secondary thing where it's like a key to power, which is something like I think it's the spear thing in Atlantis, whatever the trident in Aquaman.
I haven't seen
is like
Aquaman.
A key to power. I don't know the subtle differences, but really, for the sake of what I'm using, just anything that drives the plot forward, which is not the picture. The picture I feel like is a very weak motivation. Like it seems like a very sort of thing to give back to her dad and be like, look, this is why you should still love my dead mom.
Yeah, it's like, here's a picture of me with what could be any woman dressed in traditional makeup.
Right? Like it doesn't feel like it does much to motivate me as a viewer to be like, yeah, go get him, Fei. You're doing this for all the right reasons. And you're going to get that picture and you're going to show your dad. Because I just have no reason to really root for her this entire movie. And I feel like trying to structure the plot around her getting something when I'm not invested in her motivations feels really weird. Like, I think you're right, James. They should have centered the conflict of this movie around that emotional story and not obscured it with an additional layer of plot.
Yeah, I think that's my main problem is it's like you kind of had to it felt like you had to get through this weird side mission about believing in Chang'e and having adventures on the moon to get to what the movie's actually supposed to be about, which is fine because it's a children's movie, but for anyone who's not a child, it's a little frustrating to be like, why are we actually doing any of this? I don't quite follow. I will say though, I didn't like Chang'e's songs, but I really liked Chang'e as a character and as a foil to Fei. I thought that was really good seeing how both of them sort of process grief in opposite ways. Fei but also kind of the same. Fei pushes everybody away and kind of goes hermit recluse mode and doesn't really want anything to change, whereas Chang'e responds to her grief by becoming this extravagant, outward, extroverted pop star queen. It's almost like Fei grieves inward, but Chang'e grieves outward, and it was really a good foil. And the reason it works so well also is because these two are sort of pitted against each other for most of the movie. It's like the thing that makes foils work well is when their motivations are so very they're the same motivation, but just different enough that it causes conflict. It's like that saying where the traits you dislike most in someone else are the traits you have yourself. It's exactly like that. And I was a big fan of Chang'e and Fei's kind of dynamic. I thought that was pretty well done. Good foil. I love me some foils, as y'all know. But yeah, I just wanted to point out that I do think they did Fei and Chang'e well. I don't know. What do you think? Was there an antagonist? Was Chang'e the bad guy?
Yes.
Yeah, she was, I'd say, the antagonist, right? She's the primary force against the main character for most of the movie.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. What do we think of Chang'e as an antagonist?
I liked, as you were saying, her as a character, but originally I thought it was kind of going to go down the route of the evil queen from Candace versus the universe, where like she ends up being this whole different person than what Fei was kind of like imagining. And I don't know if that would have made the movie better, but I definitely think it would have made it interesting, more interesting. But as the antagonist, I don't really think she did anything like other than maybe like locking up Chin,
No, yeah.
and she was just like incentivizing something that she wanted. Like I guess her main antagonist trait is like selfishness.
Yeah, and it's an antagonist doesn't always mean evil, right? Antagonist is just opposite to the protagonist, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so she's definitely not like she's not the bad guy. And I'm glad they didn't make her evil because I feel like that gives the movie a little bit more nuance than anything, right? If there was a big twist at the villain and you know Chang'e's evil at the end or Gobi turns bad, like I feel like that would have just
Oh God.
that would have been like really contrived. Then we would be having a Pixar movie on our hands. But I'm glad that Chang'e was not like she was the antagonist, but she wasn't the villain because those are different for sure.
And her motives are pretty sound, to be
Yeah,
honest.
she had
Like,
she had a good arc, I think.
I
yeah.
love how she was like, I've spent this entire movie trying to get Yi back, and here he is. I'm gonna sing to him, and then and then he embraces her and is like, "Nah, fam," and then just
Oh,
evaporates.
He
that
really said,
hurt.
yeah. But that
He
was
just said,
good.
"I'm gonna go corporeal."
But that was a good scene. Like that's just the kind of subversion of expectation you need. And if you know what the movie's about going in, you can kind of see it coming that it's not going to work. But that's great. Honestly, what I was hoping for was an even bigger subversion of expectations when Gobi and Fei are sitting on or they think they've lost the gift because the doll blew up. That was sort of the herring. Red
Mhm.
hair. I almost said red heron, but we're talking about all sorts of plot devices. We got a MacGuffin, we got a red herring, we got a key to power, we got a foil. We're hitting our academic milestones. But when Gobi and Feifei were having this conversation about like, oh well, we lost the gift, but blah blah blah, you need to move on because you're wonderful and there's new opportunities ahead. I was kind of hoping that it would just kind of like that would be it. Like, there's no gift. Like, there's no magic gift that's gonna make this better. Like, there is no magic third act. You just kind of have to cope. And I thought if they went that direction, that would have been like something. But I guess it would kind of invalidate the last hour and a half of the movie. But I don't know. I was just kind of hoping for like a bolder take than what they wound up going with. I guess in the end, though, the gift didn't really matter, so I'm kind of happy about that. Because if the whole movie was literally as simple as find the gift, save the day, that would have been really bad. So at least they didn't do that.
Very true. Going back to Yi for a second, why did he say that you have to move on?
Because she hasn't moved on.
Yeah,
Closure, baby.
but he was about to be with her. So why was he like, nah?
Wait, yeah, well, wait a minute.
What's the
think
reason?
It was
Wait.
the
Like, this
Wait,
is my
you-
exact question. He's about to be with her, and then he's like, no, you have to move on. And then she's like, oh, what, dude? I thought our entire thing was like you wanted to be together, and I was working really hard.
Was he all the way there? He looked kind of ghosty. I think that was just
I have no clue. If he was a little ghosty, I would like a little bit more explanation, because it just seems like if she was trying to bring him back and she thought that bringing him back would be like physically bringing him back, then it just feels a little weird as me for a viewer when he gets brought back as a ghost, and then I have to interpret that because he's a ghost, they can't be together, so then he has to tell her to move on. But then why would she even bring him back as a ghost then, if she knew that that was what was going to happen?
yeah, and like go ahead. I'm gonna
I
get too
think
angry.
okay, so how I interpreted it was that essentially like Chung like didn't know exactly on what terms she would be bringing Yi back on, because she seemed really just rocked that he wasn't like, she got one hug and that was it.
Mhm.
And so I don't think she would have even gone through all the trouble if she had known that if he wasn't going to be there forever. But I really think that it comes down to the theme of like reconciliation and closure with the people that you've lost, because we never really get to know whether or not like Fei Fei got the reconciliation and the closure with her mom. And if we're going on like the whole foil train, like giving Chang'e this like closure with her love that's been her motivation after being like the big darkness, like when she went into depression. I don't know. I mean, I'll give that they could have explained it better. That there's a lot of things where
Yeah.
it's like, it happened.
Yeah, that's just
Moving
kind
on.
of the thing with this movie. It's like, all right, I guess that happened. I think we can totally apply a 5 stages of grief theory to this. Like
Oh,
super
definitely.
super easily. Totally
Really?
easily. Totally, right? Stage 1.
Denial.
On both ends, ready? Let's do this for both ends of the foil. Join me, and let's see if we can get this to work.
Okay.
All right, we'll start with Chang'e, because I feel like that one's easier. Stage 1 is denial, right? That's pretty clear to see. I mean, just the whole fact that she's trying to bring him back is denial enough. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Boom, moving on. What's the second one? Anger. She gets mad when Fei Fei doesn't have the gift. And so that upsets her plans when she's sort of confronted with the reality that Fei Fei doesn't have the gift. That's anger.
Mhm.
Bang. I think after that's bargaining, right? Oh, I'm going to incentivize. Go send my people out to find the gift. And if you bring it back in time, I'll give you this so I can have my loved one back, right? That's a bargain.
Mhm.
Stage 4,
Yeah.
depression. When the bargain doesn't work, she goes into the, what's it called? The chamber of exquisite sadness or something.
I have zero
That
clue.
hit. No, yeah, it
That
was the
good.
chamber of exquisite.
That was good. That was good. I like that. Boom. That's depression, like straight up. That's literally just depression. And then at the end of the movie, we have acceptance. Easy, great. I don't know if it's going to be as easy for Fei Fei, but let's try it, all right?
Well, so real quick, I just want to say that we flipped depression and bargaining.
I thought depression was the
It's
fourth
anger,
stage.
bargaining, depression, then acceptance.
It's denial, anger, depression, bargaining, acceptance.
What? I'm looking at Healthline.
I'm
What
just
are
trying
you
to remember.
looking
I'm
at?
trying to remember the game theory video where he did this to Majora's Mask.
I'm looking at psycom.net.
Hold on, let me be
Stages
the.
of grief, general patterns for breakups, divorce,
Hold on,
loss.
I'm gonna be the
and more.
tiebreaker. I'm gonna be the tiebreaker. Top result on Google Class on Google Images, not Classroom. The Kubler-Ross grief cycle: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance.
Woohoo!
Get Charlie, you're getting dunked on right now. You're wrong.
What?
I was right.
It's
This is-
bargaining then depression.
Oh,
Kubler-Ross, man, get your study up.
damn.
That's
Psycom.net need to
I know Psycom.net
game.
is lacking, but Fei Fei too, right? Denial. Chang'e's real. Dad, don't get remarried. That's denial. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anger comes when she's mad that Dad's getting remarried, and she's like, it's like, Chin, you'll never be my brother. I hate you.
Yeah.
Aw,
Bargaining.
Rip Chin.
Yeah, rip Chin. I really like Chin. And bargaining.
I would
Bargaining is the
say-
whole I'm gonna get the picture thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of a bargain. Yeah. Yeah,
It's
for
entirely a bargain. If I get this picture, then you have to
sure.
remember.
Not get remarried. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't
I
get remarried.
Depression. She also goes into the chamber of exquisite sadness, and also when she doesn't get the gift, that's depression. There's a lot of depression for Fei Fei. There's a lot of depression.
Over the moon. A lot
Period.
of depression.
Yeah, period.
lot
There's
of
a lot of depression. And acceptance, right? Same as Chang'e, they both get acceptance and they have to move on. Bam. Kubler-Ross over the moon confirmed. That's like, I feel like there's 2 things you can apply to every movie. The 5 stages of grief theory.
The 7 deadly sins.
Yeah, okay. This is the holy grail of film theories that are vague enough to apply to anything.
Okay, wait, should we try for 7 Deadly Sins right now?
Oh,
Oh,
my gosh.
God.
Wait, so there's 7 deadly sins, 5 stages of grief, and the hero's journey is like,
Yes.
you can apply those to just about anything. I don't know.
I don't think we could do 7 Deadly Sins for this movie. I don't know where I'd fit lust in, if we're being real. Or gluttony.
Jeez, I don't know. Yeah, that's a little tough. I guess, I don't know. Wasn't there a SpongeBob 7 Deadly Sins theory that was pretty popular for a while?
Yes, I don't want to talk about it.
Literally, oh my gosh, I hate, like, why do people do this to kids' movies?
We We're
As
gonna
we-
touch on this next week.
As we literally, oh yeah, I forgot. We started kind of getting wonky recording out of order. The weekly schedule is throwing us off, man. But yeah, so next week's episode was recorded in the past. We're getting some time travel going on here.
Right, Doc
Whoa.
Brown.
I know. Holy Doctor Who. Yeah, can we talk about Gobi?
Yeah.
Do we
really
have
bad.
to?
Yeah, really bad. I'm sorry.
I don't
really
understand why they keep giving great comedians like Ken Jeong roles where they can just like flounder. It just seems like they throw him in the booth and are like, "Be funny," and then he has
Absolutely.
nothing to go off of.
Bad. It's
like-
super bad.
It's ridiculous to me. Like, give your characters some or give your actors some actual stuff to do.
And his
You know?
design is the most uninspired thing I've ever seen.
Like the rest of Lunaria.
Smooth, green, anthropomorphic animal thing. It's like,
And then
what?
when he shows emotions, he gets like scaly.
Yeah, it's like, what even? Is he a hedgehog?
But he
Y'all
also has a
are-
really long tongue.
But he
You know
calls
what
them
he
scales.
is.
Is he an armadillo?
You know what
don't
he
think I
is?
would
He's
do-
a ploy to sell toys, and I want to talk about it.
Oh my gosh, you're so right, and you should say
The
it.
way that, because I got it from Gobi and I got it from the bunny, which we realized that the bunny literally didn't need to be there because she stayed at the end of the movie. Anyways,
Yeah,
that's
why was
besides
the-
the point.
Well, I feel like that little arc between the bunny and the jade rabbit was just super distracting. Like,
Yeah.
it's like just so
Pointless.
outside of anything else that was relevant. Like it didn't need to be there.
Well, I guess Feifei has to accept the loss of her dad not loving her dead mother, and then also the loss of her bunny, apparently, who got
she's-
Yeah,
snatched
the
up by the
last
jade
gift
rabbit.
that her
She-
mother gave
She
her.
learned how to cope, and she's letting everything go now.
She
I know.
said,
She's like, I don't care what you do.
It's like,
I'll
I
be
don't
able to
care.
Does
cope."
this spark joy? Nah.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, I'm cleansing my life, actually. Bungie, stay with your jade rabbit, whatever. But yeah, they're definitely just trying to sell toys. To be honest, like if we look at like the character design, as much as the movie is like beautiful, and we've already talked about that, I also, quick side note, the fluid of motion, especially with the fabric that they did, chef's kiss. But back to the toys. I swear, and I don't even know what they were expecting necessarily. Like, this is a Netflix original, right?
Does
like,
this
it's
movie
not.
have toys? I'm googling Over the Moon Gobi toy. Mattel
Oh.
literally has Gobi dolls.
See, look
Oh
at this.
my
What
gosh,
it is,
only
it's an
$10.
ad. It's an ad plus plot. Like, once we get into the moon realm, like that second half of the movie, I'm just seeing left and right. Like, we didn't necessarily need the lions. I appreciate the little detail because that's a cultural detail, but literally toys. The biker chicks. Toys.
There are so
Like-
many toys. There's a Gobi doll, there's a Jade Bunny doll, there's a Bungie doll, there's a Chang'e doll. I like the description for the Gobi doll. He's made with soft teal fur and is the perfect size for snuggles or take-along play. Netflix Over the Moon's Gobi is always looking for cuddles and friendship. Makes a great gift for kids.
Oh,
ages 3
is
and
he
up.
looking for warm hugs too?
Get-
Huh?
Dang. Hey, give me a Gobi plush for Christmas, guys. Can we do a Socratic Secret Santa?
Secret
With
Santa.
all
that
three
would
of
be
us.
cute.
Just the three of us.
Wait, the viewers
We'd
can do it
never
too.
Yo.
Everyone draw
Yeah.
a name.
Everyone draw a name.
Straight pass the hat around. All right. I want to talk about Chin before we leave today because I really liked Chin. I expected to really not like Chin, but he wound up kind of being like a real one. You know?
Yeah.
A real one.
I was expecting the no barriers thing to work like as soon as they got to the moon for some reason, but I thought that was like kind of cute. It was fine, and I think like the part where Feifei kind of realizes that the like how she's been able to overcome all these things is through the stuff she learned from Chin. Like that was sweet to me. I thought that was good, and I also like sort of how he's sort of like the key kind of. Chin is the key to power to me. Like
Yes.
in that final song, or the song where Chang'e is like consoling Feifei in the Chamber of Exquisite Sadness, Chang'e's talking about like the solution to moving on is just to give out love, like just to love other people as much as you can. And I do want to say I appreciate that this movie actually gives a solution. I feel like a lot of kids movies be like, you have to move, you have to grieve, you have to move on, but they never say how. It's always just like,
Yeah.
it's like, great, I know I have to. What do I do now? And so I appreciate that this movie was like, no, like you have to move on, and you do that by through unconditional love, basically. And I thought that was a really powerful message, and it honestly is true. And I think that Chin is a really good like Chin is kind of the example of that unconditional love and how it can, you know, help someone move on. Like throughout this whole movie, you know, grieving Fei Fei has been pushing away Chin, just dunking on him this entire movie. And despite that, Chin, you know, keeps coming back and puts himself in harm's way for this person who's not even his sister yet. And just this sort of pure love that Chin gives out is enough to break through the barrier of grief, right? The no barriers thing, and sort of bring Fei Fei back, and she can sort of begin to cope and move on. And so I really thought Chin's sort of arc in the movie, and not even an arc, but just Chin's like role in the plot, I thought was really, really good. I was a very big fan of that.
So I agree with you, but I think that
Oh, no.
Chin's whole no barriers thing makes
Oh, man.
zero sense.
Think about it metaphorically.
There is no reason why Chin, before going to Chang'e's thing, would have this no barrier superpower. Think about it. Why would he have that?
He's a child.
I
He
know.
makes
No
it up.
child bangs into walls and is like, I can phase through all the walls. That's
Charlie,
not how that
You
works.
have not
Charlie,
met
please,
Jules.
please tell me you're not nitpicking this. Seriously.
There is nothing related to his character that would make him be like that.
Charlie,
He's not a
He's
no
just
barriers kind of guy.
obnoxious.
Let me explain it to you. It's a setup for when eventually he's
And I'm
able
saying
to...
it's a contrived setup. I know what you're saying, that he has the no barriers thing so that he could break through the barrier at the end. Yeah, they built it backwards and they didn't give him a great enough reason to have it in the first place.
Oh my
That's what
gosh.
I'm saying.
I'm saying it. I'm simply just going to disagree with you on this point. I feel like...
What barriers does he break as a character besides the emotional one at the end?
Oh, besides the one that matters, besides the only one that thematically matters?
This is before Chang'e's palace. He has no reason to have this character trait beforehand. And then he has it solely for the end of the movie. I don't think that they built that device well. I think they could have integrated it with a better character. If anyone's breaking barriers before they go to Chang'e's palace, it's the girl. It's Fei
And
Fei.
that's the point, Charlie. The point is that before they've started their journey, Chin is unable to break the barriers. He smacks into the wall. He deflects off of Fei Fei. He can't break this barrier yet. But over the course of their journey, he's able to, through the experiences they both have and the magic of plot development, he's able to break through.
This is my point. The magic of plot development is what makes this work, James.
How do you think movies are made? How do you think anyone writes a movie?
What major emotional... He was always supportive of Fei Fei. This is what always happens.
Yes, and
he was
Fei Fei
always
learned
loving.
to accept it.
So then he had to have this external development for him to finally be able to break barriers through. It's not an internal development for him.
He's not a character who develops. He's a static character. It's Fei Fei who changes.
Well, so then it doesn't make sense to me that he's always had the same static power to break barriers, but now only because it's applicable does it work.
It's only because Fei Fei has learned to accept love that it works.
So it still doesn't make sense to him as a character personally.
It's immovable object, or immovable wall meets unstoppable object, you know? Chin's the unstoppable object, Fei Fei's the immovable wall.
Sure. I still don't think that Chin, as a character, had any reason to really have this I can break through any barriers power in the first place.
The one that he, like, imagined because he's just a kid?
Yes. It seems really core to him, as his whole thing is I can break through barriers, but like on a higher level, because like, okay, as a kid in normal life, it makes entire sense that he would come up with this crazy power, right? Like, of course he has
Yeah.
some sort of weird thing. I used to think that like I could find the rhythm to any song, and I thought that that was a cool superpower. Like,
Man can tap to the beat.
exactly. But in movies, the expectation is that this superpower has some sort of higher level of meaning, because that's what writing does. That's how you write good stories, is that you make these mundane things have a lot of purpose. And right now, the purpose to me feels very surface level. He can't break through barriers, before, and then because of somebody else's development, he could suddenly break through a barrier. It doesn't feel like his character and his motivations, him breaking through these barriers, he never got better at doing it. There was no nuance into the way that he approached Fei-Fei. It just always felt like he was the same person. And I get that that's the purpose of a static character, but what I'm saying is they could have made him a non-static character and have a better arc so that that feels more like a solid conclusion to what he's doing.
Okay, sure. And I can get behind that. I can get behind that. I feel like we should have seen more of Chin. We could have cut the rabbit stuff and get more Chin development when he's in that chamber. Maybe we get a scene of him like learning how to not be so annoying so he can better break through the barriers or something, right? Because I'm thinking of it like purely metaphorically. Like I really don't care whether he can break through any physical walls or not.
Like, what I'm saying is that Chin, if his thing that we know him by is I can break through any barrier, right?
Yeah.
I would at least expect him to have more of like a drive or some big ambition. Like, you sort of see this with his ping pong thing, but that's not really ambition. It's just sort of ego. He's like, I'm really good at ping pong.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Like, he doesn't feel ambitious to me. He just feels spontaneous, which is different. So,
sure, yeah.
So when they're bringing up this whole he can conquer any obstacle sort of thing that they're trying to build for him, and he never learns how to conquer obstacles better, like, why was he failing in the first place then? On a metaphorical level, like, why was he failing in the first place and then he succeeds later?
Sure.
Oh, it's because some other character starts to let him in. That's not really ambition or succeeding.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Like,
I agree with that.
They
I think
lowered
that,
the
yeah,
bar for him.
I think we needed some more Chin content for that to work effectively. It worked for me, but I definitely see your problem with it, and I think that's valid, and I think that makes sense. We're also already at like 55 minutes or something. So does anyone else have something to say before we take it to the spiel zone? Should we have a transition for the spiel zone? Like, welcome to the spiel zone.
I just had one point, which I think it's more of an inference, like a cool little theory on my half, but I think the stork that Fei-Fei keeps seeing at the pond is the reincarnation of her mother. Thoughts?
I thought it was just like
Oh, no, 100%.
I thought it was Chang'e, but that makes way more sense. I like that a lot better.
Is there another scene in the movie in which her mother gives her the same sort of side eye look that the stork did at the end, or the crane?
Oh, that'd be
Whatever it was.
good.
What I got was the kind of feathers ruffling her hair because her mom always played with her hair.
Oh,
the
that's
reason why she cut it.
totally. All right, yeah, I buy it. Seals the deal. Thank you for
Great.
like Charlie and I got there was a lot of animosity felt here.
Y'all,
Socratic
y'all-
Smackdown, baby.
I know. Is Chin a good character or not? That is the
Is
question.
Jin a good character or not?
No.
Speaking of characters, I don't have a segue. Welcome to the Spiel Zone, everybody. It's been another excellent week of Socratic Cinema in sunny Southern California. Like we said at the beginning, thank you for everything. Just thank you for everything. Seriously, like, as much as we say it every single week, it's still going to hold true every single week. You guys are the best. You guys are great. With that being said, help us become more great by spreading the word about the podcast. If you liked today's episode, give us a like, give us a comment if you're on YouTube, give us an Apple Podcast review if you're on there, follow us on Spotify, all our major platforms. We're available everywhere. We want to make it easy for you to access us. Also, be sure to share the podcast with your friends. If you know someone who you think is interested in film or liked Over the Moon or maybe didn't like Over the Moon, share it with them and say, thoughts? What do you think about these three teenage dweebs and their stupid opinions on Over the Moon? Are they right or not? And yeah, support us on Patreon if you feel so inclined so that we can keep on churning out content like this for you guys. And let us know in the comments any cool thoughts you have. Follow us on our social media also. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, all at Socratic Cinema. Instagram is Socratic_Cinema. Twitter is Cinema Socratic, and Twitch is Socratic Cinema as well. Anyways, yeah, thank you so much. I think that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Socratic Cinema podcast. If you haven't listened to our Christmas video essay yet, go do that too. Yeah, thank you. Okay, see you tomorrow, guys. Or next week, I mean. Bye. Adios.
Adios. You are in our
Bye.
outro right.
Say it, Kasey.
Adios.
Adios.